All right, this is all about offering group fitness classes, not in your traditional setting where you'd be at a gym, but in alternate settings or diverse settings. So, see how that. So this was something that I hadn't done. Gosh, had I done any of it pre-COVID? I don't think so. I always taught in person. And when we transitioned during COVID, not only did I transition my classes, I mean, I taught online, I guess, with my lecture classes. That is true. Taught online, but not live fitness-based classes. And so we transitioned both at the college and also at the fitness center. So I'll kind of speak to both environments, but kind of more heavily on the fitness center because that's the one you might experience. But what we ended up doing is the fitness center reached out to just me and I think like one or two other instructors to try a live broadcasting app. I think it was called Burn Along. And it was like so unique. I had like it was just the technical stuff of getting ready to go. And I had to get ready to broadcast. I had to create my environment in the background and broadcast. And I couldn't see any of the participants. So I had no idea if someone was there or not on the other end. But I was live broadcasting at the particular time. And then later on, we started using the Mind Body app, had a online version. And in that case, I was able to see people log in, but a lot of people didn't turn on their cameras. But I was sort of teaching more to a live audience. And then they had me come into the gym and they had me film a routine. And I don't even know whatever happened to that. It might be out there somewhere. I have no idea. And then at the JC, I started making a bunch of videos, like recorded videos. And then I started teaching more live Zoom classes and I learned so much. I mean, I learned by literally making every single mistake there was possibly to make. But I did take a short class about filming videos and how to set that up and I got a microphone and figured out the music and recording and editing and lighting and colors and sound and the whole thing. And so it was a really great experience to learn how to do all of that. And I definitely made a ton of mistakes and learned from them. So I'm happy to share that as we go along. So live online classes are where you're going to log in at a particular time and you have people there live that are following along. Now, a really common app, and I don't have a Peloton, so I don't have any experience with this. I just know from other people, but they have both live classes and recorded classes. So that's pretty common. And you could do both. You could have live classes and you can record it for other people to follow along after. That's the classes I have set up now at the JC is I do them in three different ways. I have in person, I have a camera or my laptop set up so I can have Zoom live participants. And then I record the session. So if someone doesn't show up in person or online live, then they can do the recording. So all three ways. So you could also do pre-recorded videos. So you can do the class at any time. And then there can be a hybrid of sense where it requires the instructor to deliver a class to a live in-person audience and teach online or video-based participants at the same time. Now, we actually call that high flex, not hybrid, in the educational field, but it's commonly miscalled hybrid. Hybrid means something different. In the education world, it means that I would teach in person for part of the class and teach online in another part, but sequentially, not at the same time. High flex, short for hybrid flexible, means I'm teaching to participants both in person and online simultaneously. So just want to get that clarification. So there's lots of technical considerations if you're going to do this style of teaching, but I really like it because it broadens. And I've thought about this a lot for my classes at the gym. I haven't done it, but we have an issue at the gym where I teach where there's not enough spots and people are signing up at like 5 a.m. and not, by 5:30 a.m. the spots fill up and there's a wait list of 10 people. And I've thought a lot about if there's a way that I could set up kind of like what I do at the JC where I set up a camera And if people can't get a space in the class, they could join in at home online. But there's some technical considerations that, and one is the sound system. So typically when I teach in both places, I need a microphone that helps with the clarity of sound to the Zoom students and to the recording. But in the space, I need to be able to amplify my voice in the space. So it's hard to kind of do two things at one time. Another thing is the music. So the music has to go out to my in-person participants, but I also have to have it a clarity of sound going through Zoom and on the recording. And that can be a little tricky to make sure that that's going in two places at one time based on the technology that's available. I've got it down pat on the SRJC side because I've been working to do that regularly. But based on the sound system that's at the gym and the microphone I use there, I don't have that set up down pat to be able to provide that. But it's not to say that it's not possible. It's just it would take a little bit of work. The music is tricky because, I have to have my playlist. I have them in my computer and on my phone. But when I'm teaching in that way, I'm using my Apple Music through my app here on my computer. And so I'm sharing my music just like I would share my screen on Zoom. There's like an advanced sharing option. So the music pipes into the Zoom students with a very clear sound, and it's very clear on the recording. And then I have to use an external speaker so that the people in the room can hear the exact same music at the exact same beat, right? If by chance, and I used to do this originally, I would have just a speaker out as external speaker with me as I'm teaching. And then I would have to set the Zoom audio feature so that it wouldn't. So sometimes you can have a feature where it blocks out background noise. Well, you don't want to do that when you're trying to use music. And so if you have the speaker in, so the in-person people can hear it, and you're just trying to have it pick up through your regular microphone, that's a little tricky because the speaker, it just can get distorted. It doesn't sound as good. And then you can't really use a microphone because you're sending the microphone of your voice, but then you have this external music going on that's not getting picked up. So it's a little tricky. So I found the best way is to have a microphone so my voice is really clear for the Zoom students and for the recording, and then having the music shared through screen sharing in the advanced settings, so it pipes into those students really clearly. And then I have an external speaker then, and so then my microphone's not picking up the sound of the external speaker, it's just picking up my voice, and that music is only for the students that are in person. I'm hoping that's making sense, but it took me like almost over a year to figure that whole piece out. Like it was like each layer that I was able to figure out. You definitely have to plan ahead to avoid unexpected disruptions in online group fitness classes. So for example, I used to have a waiting room because you want a waiting room on because like people will join early, and I have mine auto recording, and it's just, there's a lot of other weird things that can happen. So I have a waiting room on. Once I start teaching, I take off the wait room because sometimes people will get kicked out and they need to get back on, or I start teaching, I don't see them in the waiting room, or they're stuck in the waiting room and they're not getting in, I have to stop my teaching and get them in, and it's very disruptive. So you definitely want to have to think about that every time I teach. Okay, waiting room, turn the waiting room off, get the microphone, get the music going, make sure my microphone's connected to Bluetooth. I've got my camera set right. You can see my full body. The lighting's good. I have a nice contrast. I don't have like black pants with the black floor and you can't see my legs, stuff like that. So there's all these different elements that you want to be prepared for, so that in technical difficulties or disruptions in the online environment. So when I'm teaching, it's hard to see the Zoom participants if I'm just using my laptop. So I would use a larger screen for my view. So what I do is I do everything on my laptop as far as the recording and the music and the camera and all of that. but I'd have a separate larger screen that's at least showing me the picture of the people that are attending live so I can see them a little bit better. So for example, in this room, turn right here, you can see this right here. So I would mirror that to my computer so that I could see everyone larger. And when I'm in the space in the gym where we have class, there's a large monitor, and I would just log on to that separately. So I'm logging on as like a separate user just so I can visually see everyone better, so that when I'm teaching, I can see everyone in the classroom and I can see the Zoom students really well, so I can give them feedback too. Definitely want to connect directly as much as possible to a line for the internet using Wi-Fi. If you don't have a reliable Wi-Fi, it can be an issue. I remember I had that issue when we first came back from the pandemic. My internet just kept dropping every so often, and we had to have a person come out and redo our whole house and reset things, and then it stopped doing that. Now it only does it on very rare occasions, but it's doing regularly. But having a direct line can help with the issues with Wi-Fi. Definitely your space is everything. You've got to get the lighting on you. So you want the lighting facing you. I actually have light right now from a window, which is great natural light. And then you want it, whether you have to get ring lights, whatever it might be, to put it on your face. So you don't want the lights behind you. You want to be able to see everything. You want the contrast. If you have at first I would always wear black leggings and I had a black mat or a darker mat. And people were like, I can't see what your legs are doing on the screen. And so I had to think about what I was wearing, and I got a lighter colored mat, so that would help out. So there's all different aspects. You also have to have enough space in your room so that you can see your full body. There's nothing worse than have people cut off when they're trying to teach fitness and you can't see what they're doing. So there's a whole level of that as well. And creating your background so it looks nice. It's not cluttered. So some people use a green screen. You want to film in a space that allows for full range of motion, remove the clutter, make sure you're visible. Consider the class blueprint, simplify the choreography, suggest the participants enable their video. So this happened when I was teaching. I taught on the pandemic for active wellness and briefly for Sonoma Fit. And every time I taught the live class, like no one turned their camera on. And it was so weird to be teaching to like just black screens, but people just didn't feel comfortable. And I was like, hey, if you don't want to turn your screen on, it's fine. I'll still teach it. And then it was funny because once we went back in person, people would come up to me like, oh, I took your video, I took your classes. And I'd be like, I have no idea what you look like, because they never had their camera on. Now, teaching at SRJC, I make the students turn their camera on because I'm supposed to give you feedback. You're getting credit for participating, and I can't give you credit if I can't see you participating. So that is something that I do for a physical fitness class. I know they don't have to do that for lecture classes, but I need to see I need to be able to grade them on their performance. So I have them turn them on. And that's a suggestion I recommend, and it does help them. There's that accountability piece. You're making sure that they're doing things correctly and being safe. But again, if people don't feel comfortable, then it is what it is. And then again, music is an issue because if I'm funneling music through and I'm recording it on the Zoom recording, and then I have the Zoom recordings like kept private for just the class to use, that's fine. I use whatever music I want. But if I'm going to publish a video to YouTube, it will be flagged for copyright violations if I use any mainstream music that's not royalty free, which sucks. I understand the law, but the music that's royalty free is just kind of not very motivating. So that's the tricky part. I did do a lot of videos. I mostly didn't use music, and I would just say, hey, if you want to have music, here's this. I made my iTunes or Apple Music public, and I said, hey, use this playlist, and you can find the music and just play it along. And so the music was really in the background rather than moving to the beat. If I'm doing music and just recording on Zoom, I can do more like beat-based stuff because it's my playlist. I did buy a couple mixes that were like yoga music that were royalty free. Or there was one time I paid to use the licensing for this particular music that this person created. And the yoga music wasn't bad. And I felt like it really enhanced the video to have music on it. So it's just like that whole other layer. If you're going to post to YouTube, you can't use regular, you know, music that you hear on the radio. You have to use royalty free mixes or pay for music licensing. So that's a little tricky, but it did. And then one time I did a video outside. I was trying to like change my environment and my background. So I did a yoga video outside in my backyard, and it was like perfect. I mean, it just sometimes when you do a video, it just takes forever and a tons of takes, and it's just you keep messing up and saying weird things and you have to retake it. And then other times it's just so smooth. Well, this one was amazing. It was so smooth. I got through, and the wind hit the micro. I had a microphone, everything. The wind was just destroyed the recording. I was so upset. I tried everything I could to try to fix it, and I just had to record again. So I decided to try it where I would just do the yoga routine, not say a word, and then I did a voiceover. And that actually, I'll have to show you. It's my gentle yoga video on my YouTube channel, the first one, not the second one. And it ended up working out really well because when I went to record the voiceover, I had the video playing and I would just cue the cues as I was doing it. And then you can just slide the recording over. So then I was cueing just a few seconds before I was doing the actual movement, like the anticipatory cues. So it ended up being really nice because you could hear the music in the background. And then the video was just playing. And then you had this really clear narration of me talking through it, but I wasn't talking while I was doing it. So that ended up being one of my better videos. I think if I had time to do a lot more, I might utilize that strategy. So that worked out pretty good. So you have to figure out if you're going to be using and how you're going to be using it and deal with all those things. So online fitness classes require additional planning preparation for music and permissions. So you have to figure out how you're going to be using that. And then again, I kind of said, oh, maybe try this, use this playlist I already created in advance. You can use it on your own end. And then there can be video lag, so maintaining accuracy can be difficult in those beat-based teachings. But over time, if I put the music in through the screen sharing feature and I was hearing exactly what they were hearing, there's no issues with that once we figured that out. So we kind of talked about consider all possible disruptions in teaching online. Pets can come in, kids can come in. I had all of that, cats can, all stuff coming in, someone knocking at the door. Like there's just so many. I had one time I was trying to teach a yoga class, and it was my designated time to teach, and the people came to trim the trees, and they had like a wood chipper like right outside my window. And I was like, I had to teach this class. I don't know what to do. And so I changed the settings on my Zoom to be high. And it basically can change the audio settings to try to drown out background noise. And I set it to high. Amazing. It completely got rid of the wood chipper noise. It was literally like 10 feet away, like so loud. I could still hear it, but you couldn't hear it from the students or in the recording. So you have to be able to do that, and then just handle the situations with grace and confidence. When you have technical issues that come up, you drop out, someone else drops out, waiting room issues, recording issues, you name it, microphone issues. So you want to make sure you have a good description, make sure you're there early, you're dressing professionally. You're going to give pre-class safety information verbally. You could also post that in the chat. Begin and end your class on time, just like you would a regular class. And just making sure that, people that are showing up online have varying levels of experience. So even more so, you're going to give people options and let them choose which one works for you. And I always offer for people that are coming online to, just let them know that I'm happy to stay after if they have any questions, because sometimes the video is going, I'm teaching, they're following along, and it's not this, they don't want to interrupt and stop the class. So you invite them to ask questions after class or invite feedback in the chat is good. So you definitely, just like a regular class, you'd include a warm up and a cool down. You definitely include the progressions, regressions. So you're teaching in a way that's going to strategically provide various options, and sometimes certain classes might have to be a little simplified, especially because you're in a smaller space. So you have to realize that they're also probably in a smaller space in their house, and you can't be doing like, running movements all over the place. You're going to keep things kind of in a little rectangle. So again, just obviously, if you're teaching a wide audience, you're going to be inclusive in your instructions so that you can adapt to variant levels of abilities or disabilities that you may encounter, different levels of competency and ways that they learn. The coaching-based teaching is the most common with online, just because of the beat-based might be a little tricky, but not impossible. And the movement doesn't have to be in unison or with music, and music isn't required. So that kind of takes that element out of it. But not to say that it can't be beat-based online, but it's a little less tricky if you don't do it that way. So you definitely want communication, clarity with your communication, minimize transitional words, use descriptive, internal, external, auditory cues. Keep in mind, check your voice quality. I always check the recording and make sure my voice is coming through well. Also, the volume of the music is also an issue. So I got it to a point where I have to I set my Apple Music volume settings and just leave it there, because I know that's the volume that sounds pretty good on the recording. So you just double check that. It definitely requires a lot of time and commitment, and embracing technology and just knowing that it's a trial and error. I mean, just again, you're going to make mistakes. I remember one time I got this nice 4K camera because I wanted to be like clear recordings when I was doing the videos. And if you want to upload to YouTube, you can't save it in 4K. It'll take literally 12 hours to upload. And I accidentally did that, and I'll never do that again because it took 12 hours to upload to YouTube and bogged my computer down. So there's just different things that you're going to learn as you go along, like how to save your file to your computer, how to upload it to YouTube, how to edit it using editing software. So there's all this technological stuff. I think one time I did it and the sound didn't work or something, or it just gave me an error every time I uploaded. Just everything that could go wrong went wrong. And that's how I learned how to do it, is just to make the mistakes and try not to make them again. I can't remember. I think I blocked them out of my memory, how many mistakes I made. So also the confidence in front of a camera. The last thing I want to be is in front of a camera. And I just had to get over that really quickly, especially even doing these lectures. I don't want to listen to myself. I'm sorry, you have to listen to me. It's challenging not to want to redo everything and make it perfect, but you would spend your whole life doing that. So you have to kind of get used to being in front of that camera and filming yourself, and just be you. That's how you are when you normally teach in front of an in-person class. So it's okay to just let that be on video. Another strategy is, or another setting to teach, is outdoor fitness classes. These have been around for a really long time, boot camp style classes, and an instructor can make a pretty decent amount of money doing this way because they have participants pay per class. So you would pay it could be $5 or $10 per person, or they could buy a package. Let's say you're doing a boot camp and you're going to meet each morning at 6 a.m., Monday through Friday. Your best bet is, though, to have people pay up front and pay packages, or pay a monthly fee, and they can show up to how many they want. Because the tricky part about that is the whole back end of accounting. You want to simplify it as much as possible for yourself and your participants, so you're not spending a lot of time on the accounting end. I did start to teach outdoor fitness classes during COVID, but I didn't continue because it was a lot of work, like organizing, marketing, getting people signed up. I remember I only had like so many spaces, and if people canceled and then someone didn't, wanted to come, but they couldn't come, and how to collect the money. And, well, I actually have a whole session in the class on about the different types of programs that you can use for the back end of the accounting piece. But if you're willing to do it and have a business around it, I have like a full-time job, so I don't want a side business, but it's a great strategy, and you can make a pretty decent amount of money per hour. So I actually recommend that if you have the time to commit to it. Being outside, great to be around nature, improve mood, enhance cognitive function, stress reduction. Nature-based activities have been, shown a really good, strong correlation with mental health. And then the accessibility for the community, having it in the community area, usually it's pretty affordable for people because I don't have to have a membership to a gym. So there's like a lot of positive benefits. However, the space that you decide to do your boot camp, you might need to get a permit. So you're gonna have to contact the city to make sure you can actually use the park setting. And sometimes there can be rental fees. So you need to make sure that you're clearing that. And that depends on whether it's public land or private land. And of course, there's also risk mitigation. So you want to visit the space, make sure that it's safe. There's like sometimes a grassy area can have like divots and like, rocks and different things that could be a hazard, or the grass is wet and it gets slippery. You definitely want to plan for emergency situations. You always have your phone with you. I'd always have a first aid kit. You got to plan for bad weather. So there's just a lot of different things that happen in outdoor space. And also the music, if there's other people in the outdoor space, you don't want to overwhelm people with the music. Have a microphone, I had a portable speaker that I carried out, almost looked like a suitcase size, and it had a handle kind of like a suitcase, and you rolled it out. She gave it to my son. Now he has it in his house for college. That was my boot camp speaker. The ground surface, hazards, debris, sun exposure. So I'd always bring sunscreen with me in my car to give out to participants if they needed it, if they forgot it. You want to be careful for any traffic, pedestrian traffic or automotive traffic. Making sure you had access to drinking water or restrooms. If you choose a place, you want to make sure there's access to restrooms nearby. Access to electricity if you want to plug in your stereo. I had one that I would charge up, and so it would recharge. So I just have to remember to always charge it, and then it was ready to go, but you might need access to electricity. And just weather again. So if you are going to be teaching outdoors, you want to make sure that you know the signs and symptoms of heat exhaustion or heat stroke or hypothermia, because those things can come on, especially in hot, humid conditions. You want to be cautious of that. And then also in hot, humid conditions, you want to consider fluid replacement. Typically, you're wanting to drink before exercise, during exercise, and after exercise. You don't need a carb electrolyte replacement unless you're exercising for over like an hour and a half and you're like sweating a lot. Then you need to replenish by having your glucose replenished and the sodium and potassium. Those are the electrolytes. Fancy words, electrolytes, just sodium and potassium. And you lose that through your sweat. But in a normal, like a 1 hour, boot camp, you're not going to lose so much electrolytes. You got to, guzzle a Gatorade right after. It's only for people that are doing like long distance races and hot, humid conditions, and they're going for over an hour and a half of exercise. They're going to start to need a replacement if they continue to go on. They're still sweating a lot. Other than that, just water's fine. But you do want to be cautious. Definitely wearing long sleeves, wearing hats, sunglasses, sunscreen. Be familiar with locations for medical and public safety resources. Develop an emergency response plan. Like I said before, always keep a first aid kit, extra water, a cell phone available. I just have those in my car just in case. Be flexible with your plan. You're still going to do the warm up, the cool down, thinking of transitions and timing, intentional use of the equipment. If you have to bring, I had people bring their own, they just bring like a set of dumbbells with them. And then I brought bands, but I make sure I have enough bands. And then I had like cones, these little orange cones that I would set out for places for people to stand. Yeah, they have to bring their own mats. You can use equipment too. Like I would have, sometimes I'd use like park benches for push-ups or step-ups. And you can use like chain link fence. You can use them to put the bands through to do some exercises with the fencing. What other things have I used in the outdoor space? So yeah, there's like some really cool stuff you can think of in that space where you go, oh, okay, how can I do an exercise utilizing what I have here in this outdoor arena? Because you're teaching outside, there's a lot of wind noise and your voice doesn't stay contained. So sometimes you're yelling a lot. So I did use a portable speaker that I would connect a microphone to help amplify my voice if I had a large space with a lot of people. So in that case, you could use more nonverbal, exaggerated cues with your body and more concise verbal cues so you don't strain your voice, or use a microphone system. You could also use printed signage. So you could put signs up for stations so people know what exercise it is. Also, another thing that I would recommend if I was running my own business is have one of those foldable signs with a QR code, because people would walk by and be like, hey, what's this class? I want to take this class, and then you can't like stop the class and give them the information. So if I had my own business, I would do like a little tripod thing and set it up, and it would have like, hey, are you interested in learning more about this class? Here's this QR code, sends them to the website, and then they can figure out what that class is, what time it is, and how they can sign up. So you're going to, just like any other class, you'd accommodate a different learning preferences. And then there's all those different styles of classes that can be used: beat based, coaching based, practice style, self-check style. Just like, the inclusivity that we talked about, just being open and welcoming to people that have never worked out outside. They may feel insecure about or apprehensive of working out in an outdoor environment. So you just want to, bring them in, welcome them in, asking how you can help them, and making sure that you're giving different options for different people to kind of ease the anxiety of and help build up rapport. Group dynamic also good, where you introduce people to other people and you can do all kinds of like partner exercises and group work. Stroller strides, also known as, there's another company called Fit for Mom, which is a similar thing. They have a huge, in fact, a person who graduated from this program the first year we offered it is a very successful business owner for Fit for Mom in Santa Rosa. Her name is Sequoia, and she just did such a great job of starting her own business. And they meet outdoors with their kids in strollers and do a whole workout. And they have all different places they meet across the county. And they also, if it's raining, they'll even meet in the mall, inside mall, and do the workouts there. So they do a really great job of establishing a group dynamic for the mothers and the kids. And that's how they built a successful business. So that might be something you're interested in.